Hello, everybody. Oh, wrong person again. Yeah,
Oh, hey. Oh, okay, John. You're okay. Welcome back. Woo,
thank you.
woo, woo, woo. Nice to see you again. It's been a while.
Yes, thank you for taking care of the show. Totally appreciate it.
My pleasure and honor, as I'm sure you know. I was
Yeah,
happy to step in.
yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Don't
Uh,
do that again, okay? Don't do that again.
I don't want you to do that again.
Don't
That
do it again.
not a fun ride. A lot of experiences, but not a fun ride.
It's
So
one for the annals. You are the king of, you are the scribe. So scribe away.
yeah, I don't know about that.
I think, did you get
Um,
a little grayer? You might have gotten a little grayer. Or maybe
I
I've not seen
probably
your beard all the way grown in. It's quite handsome. It's quite
thank you.
distinguishing.
Well,
You're
I
welcome.
feel older.
Wiser? A bit wiser too. No.
No, brain strain. No, no, not really. No. Um,
Well, you're
so
back, and I know you don't want to
yeah,
talk a lot about it right now. It's all going to come. You'll have these discussions, and you wrote a beautiful article this week about
yeah,
some
yeah.
of your experience. And I hope everyone reads it. But we don't want to tire you right now because
No,
it's amazing
so
you're
the
here.
next, I decided to write a couple of them just for people. I thought, my whole point of the Positive Pen was sharing experiences. So hopefully, people that have either have some type of familiarity of it, or they've had, or they don't know anything about this, at least that they can be aware of it, and hopefully they can use this as a guiding light down the road. Um, yeah, there's a couple more stories coming out, and then I need to jump onto some other projects I was trying to work on that have been put on hold. But I do feel a little better, and I'm going to say thank you to
Good.
everyone out there that have messaged me and wrote letters or wrote little notes to me and all that. I really appreciate all that. Thank you very much. Um, it's fascinating about this community, even though we're all diverse in so many ways that we kind of connect on a human level, which is kind of nice. So thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and putting out a call to action. I mean, that's what I basically did. Said,
Yeah.
I need you to think of my partner right now and send him all the good juju you can, and hopefully it helped.
Yeah. I hopefully, so just a quick short, like I'm on a regimen of treatments, and then I'm kind of like restricted on a bunch of stuff. So I got to follow those doctor orders, and more tests are coming and more other things. So I will keep you guys updated along the way. And then maybe down the road, we can have a podcast just solely dedicated to this, and maybe bring other people that have experience of this or expertise of this and talk about it. That's really, I think that might be a good a podcast down the road. So that's my
Yeah,
thought.
find a doctor, a pulmonologist, and a
Yes.
cardiologist, and some people experts we can bring in to discuss this and how it possibly can happen.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
because
So,
people don't think stuff like this happens to them, but
yeah.
it
So
does. But yeah, you're back.
do you have a,
Woohoo!
well, I lost like 25 pounds. So that's a good story.
Oh my gosh.
Mhm.
Wow. Yeah, it just takes one good blood clot to lose all to get to your goal weight. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, John.
So
Oh
I
my
told
God.
that to the doctor. I said, at least you asked me to lose weight. I've lost weight. So
Ta-da.
how I got there is just a
I
different
don't think he
story.
was impressed, my
Oh no, he
friend.
laughed. He laughed.
Good. He has a
So
sense
we
of
have a.
humor.
So how was your week other than the storms and the coldness down
Bloody cold. Bloody cold. Otherwise good, other than, Deanne and I were talking about this just momentarily backstage, that she posted about my dear, not my dear. I mean, millions of us loved this woman, Catherine O'Hara, from scores of TV and film, and we lost a Canadian American great. And she posted that, and I said, oh, and endeared me to her even more, but
there? She joins
that
John
was on our
Candy.
mind. Oh, oh my gosh. And then they were showing lots of work that she did with John Candy and everything. Comedy people,
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on. I'm like, I've loved comedy and done comedy for years,
You're
but
still like 71 years old.
71.
Yeah.
Yes, that's not, no, that's not on. That's
Yeah.
totally not on. So I'm like going to the doctor, getting blood work, doing everything I'm supposed to do. Are you listening, John? And you know, yeah.
Yes, mom.
Anyway, so yeah,
Okay.
uh she posted a great thing, a great story by Thich Nhat Hanh. Go on her Substack and read it. And yeah, so you have a little more, less anecdotal than I do. I'm always one for the anecdotes, but you have more, nitty gritty to tell our viewers.
So, so is that my cue to introduce the guest?
It is. You're on. You're on.
Okay. So the guest that we have is Deanna Ames, and I came across her, I think, last August, September, and I started reading her stories. And one of the things, and at the time, I was writing a lot of inspirational stories about people and trying to maybe promote them a little bit. People that are little small accounts, trying to get them going. And one of the things I found out about her is there's some parallels on from my divorce and her upbringing in some ways. And I was able to do a two-part series on that. One describing about how parental alienation is kind of like really a toxic situation, and then
Very.
how her her mother kind of started to do similar things in erasing her father. And that's why I want to bring her on, because I think this is a very, very touchy topic, but a lot of people don't really understand the magnitude of that, or they don't understand that they're doing it themselves. So really, I want this to be maybe a lesson learned, or maybe just take a reflection if you are in a parental or in a co-parenting situation. I mean, at the end of the day, it's the children, and my children are still affected by it. It's scarred. I got more stories about that, but
Of course.
uh, and it's just recent stories. But the thing is that that's why family is failing. Is because we're always in this competition of win at all cost, and it's not winning at a cost; it's winning at a cost of the children. You're not gaining anything because the children, at the end of the day, lose identity of themselves, and they don't feel as a whole as humans. They don't have that connection, and it's really important. And I'm not now excluding those ones that don't. Well, actually, you know what? My sister, um, um, my sister actually still maintained the relationship of her son's father, even though he was carcinated and went into jail.
Incarcerated. Wow, 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 wow.
So she was still saying, that was needed. So I
Oh, good for her.
So I say, so that's what I was going to say. Well, maybe certain cases are not. I was going to go down that point, but then just popped in my head, and I was like, well, no, that could happen, and it does happen. So, no further
And
ado.
parents need to know, wait a minute, I definitely want to inject this. Parents need to know their city, county, and state laws, because I'm in the state of Florida, which can be kind of rough. But a woman that I used to know went to the mattresses to get on the books parental alienation laws. So please, if you're in that situation, check with your state, county, and city laws, and maybe that can help you.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
with
I'm going to bring in Diana, and
Deanne,
yeah. Oh, okay.
you get a pass. You get a pass.
No, I
You
don't
know
get it.
her. You know her name. It's just you got a little. It's a little wah, wah up there. There's Deanna.
Hey, how are you? Welcome,
Hi, it's actually Deanne, but
Deanne.
close
That's right.
enough.
Yeah,
Deanne.
yeah.
Close enough. I'll answer
So
to Deanna.
I think
Okay.
you heard a little bit of our conversation there about the
Oh, yeah.
the parental alienations, and I just want to premise where I came from, and I'll give you one example. Just recently, just happened. I was sending books to my children. It was the Quiet Miracle, and it was my daughter's. She was the one actually inspired me to write this, and because of the Bethlehem and all that, and I sent her a copy of it, and I found something of hers that used to be a coin bag thing and sent it with her. And I knew that could cause some issues. And it just happened like a couple weeks ago, actually, while I was sick. And
Oh,
she texts me one night and she says, oh no, she find out that my oldest son got some money from me. And it was a large sum. And not like, that was maybe $1,500 total. And he needed to get his car fixed. There was a couple other things he needed to do. And it was Christmas and it was tough. I mean, he's a student, right? And he and I has developed a relationship and we're kind
good.
of going that. And that's where I said to him, I was like, I'm gonna let you have this money as long as we maintain a relationship. That's all I ask. That's all I
Mhm.
ask. But if we don't have a relationship, you're not going to get any money from me because what's the point? I mean, I'm going to just give you money and you walk away and then treat me like trash. Um, so my daughter, similar situation. And I was like, we need to, like, if I'm going to help you with this and I'm going to pay for stuff, I'm expecting a relationship. And somehow or another, the mother injected herself and she blew it up. And then she turned around and said, you'll never give me money. You'll never get, and it was all about money. So they fast forward later. That was a year ago. Now I sent her a book. I sent this little coin thing, and I don't know. I put a Canadian dollar in there. I can't remember what I put in there, but it was her. It was her thing that she brought to Canada, and I wanted her to have it. And I put some money from some Canadian money in there. And I got a text, and she said to me, she goes, "Never ever contact me again. Don't write about me. You never giving me money." And it was just all about her. And my response was, okay, I will wish your wish and just let you go.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah. And that just happened a couple weeks ago.
You've had a bad month, haven't you?
Yeah.
Deanne, can you
It's
tell
more
us what you did? You're a therapist, right? Or you
well,
said you're a retired therapist?
I'm still
Mm.
licensed, but
Ah.
I've been retired since the beginning of 2022. So I was a licensed marriage and family therapist in private practice since from 2008 until 2022. And before that, I worked for a couple agencies, both here and in California. I moved from Minnesota to Minnesota from California in 2004. And prior to that, I worked as a child protective social worker in Santa Cruz County for 10 years. Um, so, and initially my goal in going back to school, because I have a English degree, but I went back to school in the 90s. So my goal was to work only with children, but things evolved and I eventually was working with adults who had been abused as children.
Mm.
That's a huge population. And I think it was 2007 when I went to EMDR training. Actually, first I had some EMDR myself about my own traumas. And I got really excited about the results and went out and got trained and then certified myself. And I tell you, that just turned my whole private practice around because there was such a big need for that. And eventually, I was mostly seeing people who had been traumatized as children, so who had complex trauma rather than like one thing happening to them. Not that that's not
So,
horrible, but more complex developmental trauma.
right.
And it kind of, I loved my work. It kind of exhausted me, though, I have to say. And then I found out that, well, I was having really bad migraines, horrible migraines, ended up going to Pittsburgh for an operation on, oh God, what was it? C2 or C3. Like I had something squeezing on, I had blood vessels wrapped around a nerve that was at
Mm.
headaches. So I had that. There was a famous uh, neurosurgeon at Allegheny Hospital in Pittsburgh. Anyway, so I had that done. I continued to have headaches, not as bad, but I eventually retired. And I started working part-time and then I retired. But I'm well past retirement age now, so it was still a good time to retire. And actually, just lately, I have decided that I want to use my MFT license here in Minneapolis to work with people who have been and are being traumatized by what's going on currently. I'm not one who wants to, I don't really like crowds. I hate to say that in
Here,
public, but
here.
I don't really like crowds. I get claustrophobic, and it also kind of tweaks my own PTSD issues, being around yelling people. I was telling my husband, if I was in a crowd and an ICE agent, I'm not going to get political, don't worry, but if an ICE agent started yelling or like, I would probably crawl under the nearest car and go to pieces. So I'm not probably good protest material. So how can I give back to the community? So that's one way. There's something called the Trauma Resource Network here. It's in every state, I think, but I have contacted them. And then there's a fellow Substacker, Christine Wolf, who does healing writing workshops, among other things. And she has been contacted by the YMCA here in Minneapolis about doing some workshops. And I reached out to her and said, well, I would love to be like the mental health person in the room and come up with a list of resources for people so they could. So, I knew I wanted to do something. I don't want to go back into private practice. I'm not really wanting to work full time again. But, with things going on here, I just feel like I can't just sit by and my conscience won't let me do that. But again, I'm not a protester. I wouldn't be good out there in the, and I'm also not from Minnesota originally. So when we were on vacation and I'm watching these people out in the sub-zero temperatures, I'm like, wow, that's really amazing and commendable. But I'm not a Minnesotan originally, so I don't think
Something to adjust to.
So
Yeah.
let's get back to the trip. I'm sorry, I don't mean to.
No, wrong.
Yeah. I mean, that's something we can't control, unfortunately, right now. So one of the things the reason I told that story from the beginning is exactly what your skill sets are. And thank you for giving that to us and telling that to the audience. But one of the thing is now, what happens to those children when they feel so traumatized like that, when they can't identify themselves, or what are the things you see, or what you did see was happening to these children as they become adults?
Well, one of the things, I mean, there's a whole slew of things that happen to children when they're traumatized. When people are in a situation that they truly cannot escape and they're traumatized, they will sometimes dissociate, meaning that, a part of them just kind of goes away. Part of their mind just kind of tucks itself away in a corner, and then the rest of them carries on because they don't have a lot of choice. So that's one thing. And people do that to varying degrees. So dissociation happens on a wide spectrum, all the way from daydreaming to people developing dissociative personalities. But most people are probably somewhere in the middle. I mean, we all dissociate at times, but so that's, like we could be driving our car and realize, oh, I'm home already, or whatever, or just daydreaming.
I do it all the time.
Yeah, me too. So that's one of the things that children do because it's a coping mechanism, and it's a healthy coping mechanism when they're in a situation that they absolutely have no control over. It becomes unhealthy eventually as an adult if it's used a lot. But that's one thing. Another thing is children can become depressed, and adults don't necessarily always recognize that, especially if they're in a home that isn't attentive to their needs to begin with, they're probably not going to get, their depression isn't going to be recognized as it should be. So they could become like lost children where they kind of fade into the background. I think I did the opposite. I kind of, as the youngest, I was like trying to keep people laughing and trying to keep people in a good mood, right?
Right.
Yeah. So, and that has
So,
its own.
so you had, I mean, you had an experience from a childhood experience, right? So how did that, what, explain your childhood experience with your mother and father?
Oh, well, that's a loaded question, but I'll do what I can. Well, my father and my mother were separated at the time he died, and the reason they were separated was that he had been unfaithful, and so she asked him to move out. And I have vague memories because I was 4 years old, a little shy of 2 months short of being 5 when he died. But I didn't know anything about his behavior. I know he drank too much. And anyway, so he died in a car accident.
Oh, geez.
And right, just north of San Diego, back when the roads were, there wasn't Interstate 5. It was like Highway 101, and people would turn onto the roads from like not on ramps. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
crossroads. So anyway, he got killed, and um, I he was already not living at home when that happened, and I would see him sometimes, but immediately he was replaced in my mother's life by another man, and he was somebody who was outwardly successful. He was a physician in our town. And my grandparents who lived in the town were really happy, like, oh, you've replaced that ne'er-do-well with this guy. Well, he turned out to be abusive. He was sexually abusive to my older sister and me, and ignored my brother my poor brother who had just lost his father, just acted like he didn't exist. So, but my mother, and this is, I go into this a lot in my book, trying to make sense of her behavior. My mother now says, I'm so naive. I was always such a naive person. But I also think that for whatever reason, my mother dissociated and checked out from the situation because she didn't think she had any options. This is my story. I tell myself, I don't really know because she won't talk about it. But one of the things she did, as I said when we were backstage, was in her anger at my father, she cut his image out of all the family photos. And this left this really strange, it was like my sister and brother and I would be standing, leaning against nothing, right? It's not funny, but she literally erased. And I thought of that metaphor when I was, I don't remember who you were interviewing, John, but you were talking about that. And I made a note, this was a few months ago, to mention this, that
Yeah.
he was literally erased. So no talk about him. I never met his side of the family. And I have a lot of cousins, it turns out, on his side of the family.
Wow.
And nobody ever talked about him. My grandmother sometimes did, but so my mother, who was very intelligent, but is kind of childlike in many ways. She's very small, and she's just kind of a child, a woman, a stereotypical woman from the 50s.
Right.
What I want to say, she really thought she could not exist without a man. And I think, was smarter than he was, actually, her husband, in many, many ways. But so that's as much as I'll say about that, except that, my book, which I finished and I'm looking for a publisher for, goes into much more depth about this. But the impact on me, I've realized over the decades, is, I did have a grandfather that lived close by who was wonderful.
On your mom's side or your father's side?
My mother's side, her parents were just angels.
Well, that's grandparents.
They were wonderful grandparents, and I owe them a great debt to how they stepped in and were there for my brother and my sister and me. But there was definitely
Sorry, I'm being
sense.
distracted. 1 second.
That's okay.
Sorry, continue. 1
There's
second.
definitely a sense of unfairness, and a lack that I didn't know that I had. Really, I didn't know that I had such a big lack until later, when it's dawned on me that I really got cheated out of having a father.
So, do you think that your experiences were directly the reason why you went in? I mean, it's probably a dumb question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. The reason
No,
you went into marriage and family therapy is because you worked on healing yourself and you wanted to help others, or dot, dot,
yes.
dot?
Yeah,
Hmm.
no, I think it was, but I didn't do that until I went back to school when I was 30. So I'd had quite a bit of therapy at that point. And I was recently reading a post on, Ordinary Therapist is the
Oh,
Substack.
yeah, 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 yeah,
And
yeah.
there was something about, a lot of therapist bashing. And she actually said, I agree, there's a lot of bad therapists out there. And one of the reasons is that if they haven't healed a lot of their own stuff, then they're really not in a position to be out there. So the program that I went to required me to be in therapy. It was actually a transpersonal counseling psychology program at JFK University in Orinda,
Mm.
California. And
Hmm.
it was a very enlightened program in that it required people to do their own therapy, and there were process groups, and because they didn't want to produce therapists who were out there with this heal the world mentality who hadn't healed some of their own things. But yes, I would say yes, that's why I definitely a big reason why I went into that field. Yes.
So when you were kind of like in therapy, and obviously you're dealing with all these traumas, all these patients of yours, what's the most common thing that they were, I don't know, if hungry, or what was their longing in that situation? What were they looking for? Or was there any of that type of search, or was there, like, I don't know, is there a common thread between everybody, or it was all individually different?
Well, let's see. Everybody was unique, and yet, let's see. I'm looking for a common thread. Common thread would be maybe a right, the need to feel a right to their own pain and grief about their childhood because they'd been denied that, over and over and over, and been invalidated, gaslighted. This isn't happening, or if it did, it's no big deal. Um, yeah, that was one of the main threads, I would say, is
So if
uh,
you're
yeah.
if you're a parent and you're in that situation, co-parenting, what would be your advice in that situation? I mean, I'm not asking for your professional,
No,
just as, what would be something that you would recommend and pass it on to people and say, hey, this is something you really need to pay attention to when you're with your children.
validating their feelings as much as you can. Certainly, I mean, there's some basic things like there must still be people who say things like, don't cry, or, I would hope not, but they probably do. They're probably out there.
Little girls
Don't
don't
cry.
cry.
uh,
Just kidding.
you know, uh, but
Little
really,
boys shouldn't cry.
right,
Boo.
I
right.
was thinking about Tom
But really
Hanks, and I was thinking
dumb
about Tom
things.
Hanks in the
Oh, there's no
Which one?
crying in baseball.
that's it, yeah.
A league of their own.
Oh, There's no
That's
crying in
it.
baseball. What if
That's
you get
it.
hit by a bat? Are you allowed to cry?
Well,
Well,
you strike
back when I
out.
was growing up, you're not even supposed to cry. You're just supposed to take it and just move on.
Well, then how
Mm.
did you turn out to be a sensitive, caring guy if you weren't allowed to cry? I'm
A
trying
lot
to
of
turn the
beatings.
tables on
I
you
got a
for
lot
a
of beatings. No, just kidding. No, I get a lot of beatings. So,
minute. Um,
no, but I mean, like when you were born in the 70s, I guess, or the 60s and 70s, life then was kind of different. It wasn't something it's not like today where you get thrown in front of the TV or you get devices. You become imaginative, you become creative, you become adventurous, if you have that personality, and you become more and more, and your friends weren't on the screens, they were your neighborhood, and you would seek them out and you would enjoy, and you go knock on the door, hey, you able to come out? And I mean,
it-
that life was different. And then also our parents at the time mine were immigrants to Canada, and they're from Italy, so their parenting skills came from boomers, not boomers, but from the Great Depression, which was, your
right.
The
kids are,
silent generation.
your kids are basically slaves. They're there to be manually helping you get things going, because they
And
were there
raise the other kids.
and raise the other
Oh,
kids. They were on farms and things like that. And especially from Italy, there wasn't really much after the war. There was very little food. They were all hunger. So that was my parenting from my parents. So it was, and discipline was a spank in the butt for being stupid, or your manners were not correct and you got spanked in the butt, or you got a good stern talk. And my dad loved to talk. My mom just loved to throw the spoon and wooden shoes. So nothing
oh,
against
wooden shoes like clogs.
clogs. Yeah, duck. You missed. Don't-
Oh,
Yeah, you can laugh about it now. Back then, it wasn't funny, but yeah, it was. Yeah, but
no,
that was. I mean, not saying that was right or wrong. That was their way of raising you.
That's what they knew. That's
That's
what
what they
they
do.
knew.
So I
right.
don't fault them for that. Like, I don't blame them how I was raised. Actually, I was very fortunate in a lot of ways. Did I had a lot of stuff growing up? No. But my kids today, they were raised with the internet. They had all these tools in front of them. I mean, I just can't imagine from a therapeutical situation where these kids are full information, but they're well known, and just the way how social media interacts. They're learning some bad behaviors online, and I just can see as a co-parenting that is toxic, and then they got that tool. I mean, they're just going to be. I think they'd be way more messed up than when I was being raised as a child. So,
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, I mean that's how I look at it. I don't know if that's the right way of thinking, but but in today's age, all these kids are so weaponized in some way or another, either through their online ecosystem or through the adults in the room that kind of like gaslights them, or kind
Hmm.
of just misinformation and a lot of whatever. Then obviously their own media, whatever that looks like. I mean, whatever they consume, and that's where I look at this generation and I just kind of think they're just never ever going to understand the world of you know being out there on their own and learning how to survive it. It's all protected, and then they use it as a victim. I think they victimize themselves, and then they say, "Hey, it's I'm a victim now. It's everybody else's fault," but never take any responsibilities. I think one of the challenges I had with my children is they never took on responsibility because I was the villain, they were the victim, and the mother was the hero. So it was triangle communication.
Mm.
So that's their learned behavior. And mixed with social media, that's how and that was a story that I was telling you earlier. My daughter doesn't take any blame for anything, which I understand. But, her MO was mostly monetarism. It wasn't a relationship. I was asking for a relationship. She wasn't asking for a relationship. She just wanted money.
Right.
And I set my boundaries up. That's not how it works. So I guess what I'm saying is that from my experience, that's how I see most toxic relationships out there with parents, how the children become more selfish and more centered. And I don't know if that's the right way to look at it, but when I talk to fathers and who are getting erased and they feel like they're getting distance, they're seeing this, they're just seeing themselves being disappeared in their children's life because of how they are being treated and all these
Portrayed.
other
How
betrayed.
they're being
So,
portrayed by-
Portrayed, yeah.
yeah.
so I don't know if that's the right way to looking at things. I mean, I'm just seeing the fathers that I talk to, and there are quite many of them. That's what I see from the father's perspective. And I always look for, like, are you accountable for your actions? Did anything that you did, and they all have that. They all have that empathy. They all feel bad. They all look back and say, I could have done differently. I could have done better this. I should have saw the red flags earlier. All those things. And that's the wicked web that they go into for a bit, and they become the shameful person, and they feel bad for everything because they couldn't make the family work. But over the years, they become more realization, and that that's how they were betrayed as the thing. And I see that happening more and more. And I don't
think I ever believed that. Well, I might have at the beginning, but I was way too young to really process the stuff my mother said or didn't say about my father. But eventually, I pretty quickly started to doubt, because I thought he couldn't possibly be worse than this guy, And yeah, and and I go into that in my book too, that he certainly made a lot of bad mistakes to get thrown out of the house to begin with. But I would have much preferred him, if they had lived, if he had stayed in town and not died. I would have much preferred him. In fact, I could have gone to him. So, I never really believed. In fact, when I don't know how old I was, but I found these negatives of photos that my mother had just tucked away somewhere of him and us kids, the three of us kids. And I had them developed without her knowing. And so I had this collection of photos of my father, and it was really wonderful to have. So in some ways, it was like I built this relationship with him, even though he wasn't there.
Wow.
And I processed what I knew were his mistakes as if we were not literally talking to each other, but I thought a lot about it. And I thought, I would forgive you if you were alive. And I still do that, even at this age. I still have conversations in my head with him. So
I know how I feel, because I have conversations with my father all the time, and I forgave him. I mean, he's passed on now, but I mean, like, I still have those conversations, and it actually made me realize more what kind of role he played in the family. So, it's just, I think we all do that. Now, has that become more of, is it, you don't think of him as an alcoholic? Obviously, you think of him as your dad more and more, right?
Well, I'm a recovering alcoholic, so
okay.
no, I don't think of him as an alcoholic. In fact, I think, wow, I think people who turn to alcohol have reasons for doing that, and then they just get caught up in it like I did. I've been sober it'll be 16 years next month. So, no, I don't think of him as an alcoholic. I think of him as my father. And I actually have some physical resemblance to him. Some resemblance, I'm like a blend of my mother and my father. So it's,
Right.
I remember looking at myself in the mirror, I don't know, when I was in my 30s, and I had just washed my hair and my hair was all wet. And so I looked and I'm like, Dad,
Surprise. No.
What are you doing here?
Yeah, right. I'm like,
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I think of him a lot, and I tend to believe in spirit communication and afterlife, and so I have conversations with my deceased brother and deceased sister and my grandparents and my father. And I'm saying that publicly. I hope I don't regret it, but
No, I think
No.
we have those conversations. I think everybody has those conversations.
if
Some
they don't, they really ought to try it. It's
It's
quite gratifying.
therapeutic. Yeah.
It
Yeah, it's
is.
very therapeutic. Hmm.
So you went through a lot of work figuring yourself out. I mean, you talked about becoming a therapist and all that. Now let's talk a little more about your book and why did you start your book and what was the reason behind it?
Well, this is kind of a spoiler alert, but because I mention it in the epilogue of my book. But my sister, who was 3 years older than I am, died in 2018, and
Hmm.
she died of alcoholism and drug abuse. Um, she
Hmm.
was, uh, and she had been an addict, an alcoholic, a functioning one most of the time, but since she was very young, because she started running away from home, and I there was the usual kind of sibling rivalry between us, but there was also this thing where I just looked up so much to my sister and my brother. I just adored them, and I was always on her side, even though she didn't believe it. She thought I was the bratty little sister. And I guess I could be a brat sometimes. But anyway, so when she died, it had a big impact on me, obviously. And I decided I wanted to write a book about her and her experience, and sort of to make her death mean something in the big scheme of things. And so I started writing about her. And then I took some courses, community ed courses and Loft Literary Center courses here in Minneapolis. And I started realizing, well, wait a minute, I can't really write about her. I need to write about us as siblings and our experience, because I can say more. Obviously, I was there. I can say more about my experience. So, and bring her into it. So that's what I did. I started doing that, and the book started taking shape. And in one of the classes, I don't remember which class I took, but somebody said, you're trying to do too much. You're trying to include too much. So narrow your time frame down and your focus. You can always write another book after this, which is what I hope to do. So it took me, I want to say, like 3 years. And then the last year was doing all the editing and the polishing. Um, but it was quite the journey. I mean, some of it was really excruciatingly painful, I have to say.
Hmm.
But at the same time, it was very valuable to me, because for the very first time, I actually, one of the things that keeps trauma alive, there's many things, but one of them is that there's like disjointed fragments for people of memories, and they're not consolidated. And so because they're not consolidated, it's sort of like many, many triggers, many like half-baked memories. And for the first time ever, I sat down and put everything I could remember in chronological order, and I made this cohesive story out of it. And that's actually part of narrative therapy, is which I haven't done, but it takes that. You make a story, you make a new story. Basically, you tell your story from a different perspective so that you can go on from there. Anyway, it was very healing for me to put all this in order, and then to process through it and to write about it. And then I had to decide, well, what are the themes here, and what do I actually want to include? Because you can't include everything. I mean, it needs to have some universal themes, or nobody's going to want to read it. So I didn't want it to be like a journal.
So you just spent
So
some time editing editing the stuff that maybe wasn't worth like. So when you write, like, I mean, I'm just going from my perspective, when I write, I just write, and I just write. And then usually I have to add if it's a book, it's because I'm missing content, or I'm just, or whatever I did. And then it just shapes itself there. And I go through it like maybe 15, 20 times before I get to a final draft of some sort.
Mhm.
So is that something is that the process you took? You just threw it all out there, and then you just kind of like start narrowing it down, or you found stories that kind of go with this timeline, or how did you start putting the puzzle together?
I did start just writing, first of all. And that was before I really knew what shape the book was going to take, or that it wasn't going to be about just my sister. I just started writing memories and thoughts, and because the writing teachers I've had say that just write, and that's what Anne Lamott says too, right? Just write, to get it all down, get that shitty first draft down is what she says. And so
It is
that's
a
what I
shitty
did.
first draft.
And then I wrote down a lot of memories and said, okay, well, you need to write about this, you need to write about that, you need to write about that. And then it started taking more shape. Yeah, so no, I usually just throw it all out there and then go back and
Start putting it together. Okay.
start putting it together.
So when you finished the book, how did you feel? Like after it was all done, you finally got a good copy, and you're like, okay, I can actually start presenting this. How do you feel about that?
Well, I'll tell you, I thought I was finished with it long before I was really finished with it.
Yeah, yeah.
And when I first finished with it, I cried. I just thought, boy, that was a journey. Boy, am I glad to be done with writing about that stuff. But then over the next year, and I gave it to a couple of friends that I trust to read it, probably earlier than I should have, and then I started polishing it, and it felt great. It felt like such an accomplishment, that I never thought that because it's 300 pages. And actually, it was longer to begin with. It was like 107,000 words. And then one of my instructors said, nobody will buy that from a first time author. So now it's like 95,000 words.
Okay.
But it felt so great. And then I actually worked with an editor, Rachel Moran, to polish this up. She's over in Ireland, and I recommend her. She was very good. So we worked together late September through November. And then she said, you got to get this out now, because to get your queries out now, because people are, this is when they read, this is when they start looking for things to publish in their next publishing period. But I'll tell you, I got lots and lots of rejections right off the bat. And so December was like, so I have taken a break from that, and I'll be back at it soon.
So when you're getting those criticisms, were you taking it personally, or you just had the professional concept of saying, okay, I'm going to take that? Because I remember when people were criticizing my writing when I really started really long time ago, I took it personally, and it took me a couple hits to kind of realize they were trying to help me, or there was a lesson learned. Now there was different criticisms out there. There's constructive criticism where someone actually sits down and say, this is what I think you should do, and this is why I think you should do it this way. And then there's those that just kind of just throw shit at you just for the sake of doing it, because they're jealous that you're writing a book or writing something. So I don't know. How did you take those moments?
Well, I had one that kind of makes me remember something. When I first started writing during the pandemic, I had a good friend of mine who is, I no longer see very often at all, who said to me, I was talking about problems I'd had in one of these online classes, because people were still trying to figure out Zoom, and this instructor wasn't figuring it out. And I was talking about the frustration of this, and my friend said, well, maybe the universe doesn't want you to write. And I was just devastated. I'm like, what a stupid and what a painful thing to say, right? But as far as, and I don't associate with this friend much anymore. Anyway,
Wonder why.
I wonder why. He wouldn't be watching, otherwise I wouldn't say that. But
I will.
the universe wanted me to write. Wants everybody to write. Who wants to write?
That's right.
Most of these classes were not, in fact, the community ed classes, we were told we could not give negative critiques. We needed to be encouraging. Okay, so the critiquing I got was from the editor that I worked with last, and she was so gentle about it, because I agreed with most of them. I'm like, yeah, that's not the best way. And yes, you're right. I already told the reader that. That's insulting if I tell them again. So I appreciated, but I appreciated it because she was a professional.
Yeah.
She wasn't just somebody else in the class who decided to rain on my parade. But yeah, no, I did take the query rejections. I would have taken them more personally, except that I'd been warned that this is extremely competitive nowadays.
Yeah.
It's gotten worse and worse and worse. And you can see on Query Tracker how few people are getting offers. It's really discouraging. So I did get discouraged, but more than that, I felt like, well, this is just, or maybe they think this subject has been overwritten, but I don't think that it can be written about enough, child abuse and overcoming the effects of child abuse. So I'm not giving up. Maybe after a year I will self-publish if nobody wants to publish it, but it's going to get out there though.
Well, that's good.
Nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Exactly.
So, so you're going to, is there anything you think we should learn more about your book, and what's the title of your book? Is there a title?
The title has changed a couple times. It started out as Indelible, a memoir, and then it went to Devil Wind, which refers to the Santa Ana winds in California, which actually mean devil winds. That's what they literally mean. And now it is Cactus Tree Road, a memoir of hurt, hope, and healing. So I did not use people's real names, and I did not use the name of the city or the street that I lived on or any of that. So I named it Cactus Tree Road because it's in Southern California. But that's the current title. I don't know, that's what it is today. So maybe an editor won't like that, but.
So it always can be a working title. It doesn't ever have to be written in stone. And as you evolve with the piece, and as you said, as more professionals get eyes on it, then, someone may convince you that the title is still not strong enough and you need to take something different from the inside the book, the content in the book. But it always helps to be flexible, not be too attached to, if it's not this, forget it. I've seen writers who someone will get their hands on it and go, I really, really like this. And I really want to work with this. But for me to work with this, a few things need to change. And the writer's like, nope. So it's still at the bottom of the drawer of the editor or the producer or the director. So
I actually thought this would make a good movie, but I'm jumping ahead of myself. I do think it would, because I don't know. I can see it in my mind's eye being a movie.
Intellectual property is, people are always looking for it. First thing, get the book out,
Right.
but then there are producers and directors and writers and all sorts of people in the industry who are always looking for intellectual property. And you never know if yours might just hit with someone, and a screenwriter will adapt it. You never know.
I'll just give you a hint. The prologue, it starts and this is a scene that I just never wanted to change, and I doubt anybody would want me to change it. I'm sitting with my sister in Sonoma County, where she moved. We're sitting at her table, and we had been drinking wine. I was drinking wine, she was drinking beer, and she rarely opened up to me. And at some point in the evening, she said to me, "Did I ever tell you about the time I tried to kill our stepfather?" And I'm like, and this is true. She said this to me. And that's how the book starts. And I'm like, no, and then and then she clams back up after a few minutes, and we don't talk about it anymore, because that's how she was. So,
She never told you the whole story?
she did tell me the story, but I'm not going to tell you.
Well, no. But I'm saying, is that part of your book?
Yes, that's the
Oh, good,
prologue.
good. Well, see, you got me interested already.
Good. And then it jumps back to when we're kids. And
Oh,
we're
I
on
love
the
it.
beach in Southern California, and it's idyllic. And yeah, so
A good flashback never hurts.
exactly. So hopefully I'll get it published. And when I get it published, you'll invite me back and I can promote it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So,
And you could read excerpts from it.
yes, you can.
There you go.
So let's talk a little bit, some of your takeaways through your journey of life. I mean, now you're retired and all that. And what are the things that you could pass along some wisdom through your experience? Like,
A
is there any
takeaway for our
takeaway or
viewers.
anything like that? Yeah.
Oh,
It could be writing, it could be whatever.
Well, I did write down that if anybody's looking for a good book on writing, Stephen King's book on writing is just pure.
Yeah. Gold.
Yes, it's great. But if I'm not good at summarizing, as you probably notice.
That's okay. That's a dinner table conversation.
That's actually a good recommendation
not
for
being
writers.
I think. Oh,
no, Stephen King's. Know thyself. That's
right.
what you said. Oh, know thyself. Yeah.
I would say
that's good.
that people who are struggling with memories of trauma do not give up healing. I mean, give yourself rest in between this trying to heal it, but don't give up, because there has been, unfortunately, some beliefs out there that you can't heal PTSD. You can heal PTSD, and EMDR is absolutely, in my experience, the best way to do that. I movement desensitization and reprocessing, so that's a plug for that.
Okay.
So just don't.
I know someone very well who has been helped immeasurably with that, with depression. So
It's great stuff. Yeah.
Well, there you go.
So you're on Substack. What's your name on Substack?
Deanne Ames.
And
And my
Deanne,
Substack,
not Diane or Deanna.
no,
Deanne.
right.
Deanne.
My Substack name is Encouraged, and I just picked that out of the air. So, but I think I'll keep it. So,
Okay.
E-N
That's
capital.
good.
And do you write weekly or every so often?
I seem to write every so often. I've been, I want to write something else soon, like not a note, but a post, a longer post. I really got caught up in this sending queries out. And
I did get a question from the audience. Can you tell us more about EMDR? They're asking a little more depth than that.
Eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. They can go to emdria.org for more information. And it's basically a way of, in a nutshell, I mean, I could spend a lot of time talking about that, but it's a way of helping people process traumatic material that is kind of stuck, unprocessed in their brain. So, it's stored.
It's a whole technique, very, very detailed technique.
Yes, it's a detailed technique, and it's a painless technique. I mean, you don't, somebody doesn't even have to tell their therapist exactly what the traumatic memory is, which is the beauty of it. I mean, you'd hope you feel close enough to your therapist, but you don't have to be traumatized all over again by talking in depth about whatever it is. That's one of the beauties of it. So it helps people, stuff that gets like stuck in our nervous systems because it was so traumatic. It helps kind of process it and put it in, helps timestamp it. So in other words, it feels like it's happening still in some ways to people who are traumatized. So
Oh.
it helps move it into a part of our brain that timestamps it and says, oh, that's really in the past, and this is what
That's
it
it.
means.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a great modality, therapeutic modality, and I recommend it. So
So we
yeah,
also had a comment from talk about therapy can indeed be traumatizing. Thanks. That's from Greg.
Yes.
Um,
Gray.
yeah,
and what?
she just said
That it can
thank
be
you.
talking about it, dredging it back up, really continuing to keep it alive makes it so real. And like you said, with EMDR, you don't ever have to say a word. You just have to work the process.
Right. Yes, and I do believe that that's one of the reasons that this was developed to begin with. Is yes, talking about it over and over and over and over can definitely
Keeps it alive.
re-traumatize a person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you're basically
Mhm.
training your brain to think that it was in the past. It's not present anymore.
To know
Right.
it, to absolutely
To
acknowledge that
feel
it's,
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yep,
To embody that it's in the past, not just to know it, but it's like,
Right.
oh, now my whole body and my whole nervous system knows that's in the past. That doesn't mean you won't have grief about it or sadness. Yeah,
Hmm.
but your brain will then register that this is over and I am safe from whatever it was. Yeah,
So I have
it's
another
great.
yeah.
comment. I have another comment from Cindy Stewart. As a
Cindy
child,
Stewart.
my alcoholic family situation made me within and create my own little world of safety imagination. If I had not been in this situation as a child, I would not be nearly as creative as I am now. I learned to be
Mm.
okay with being alone, and I cultivated a rich interior life that fueled my imagination.
Mhm.
And today, I own it to be unhappy. Oh, sorry. It's just saying that my upbringing made me the woman I am today. I
Wow.
owe it to an unhappy childhood, as strange as that may sound.
Oh, that
No.
sounds completely, I get it 100%. She
Yeah,
actually turned it into something that was informative and wow, that's a beautiful share.
that's
Thank
great. I'm
you.
glad to
Isn't
hear
that
that.
great?
Yeah, that's
It
Yeah,
is. Yeah, that's true. Our
brilliant.
experiences really do make us who we are.
right.
That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
So,
John, you're about to turn into a pumpkin. I think you're not supposed to be sitting so long.
That's
yes, mom.
right.
Yes, mom. Uh, just to let you know, everybody, like I got restrictions, so we're trying to keep this under an hour. But I wanted to come back on. I wanted to kind of like get this thing going again. And even though I'm not 100% there, I am getting better every day. And that's important to me.
Yay.
And to
So,
us, it's important
yeah,
to us too.
thank you. So I want to say, and I also really want to say thank you, Kaz, for being a great team player and co-host and whatever that the cat drags in.
Put the cat dragged in.
So
Oh, your dog's name. Tell us your dog's name. What
mine,
was it? No,
Remy.
Tummy
Oh,
Tuckerman. Tummy
I
Tuckerman
love
is
that.
my
I just
dog.
so cute.
Tum Tum Tuckerman. Yep.
and we
I
had
mean, come on.
My dog is right here, but she's fast asleep. Otherwise, I get.
Hi, puppy.
Yeah,
yeah,
she's
and
out.
my
Well,
and my interruption, so everybody knows, was Marie was trying to get in here to get something, and then she left the door open, and I was hearing the noise over there, so I was getting distracted. So I had to get up and say, I'm live, right?
She's like,
Oh, okay. she's
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 like,
oblivious.
sorry.
Yeah. No, she wanted to show me her scarf because I bought her a scarf, and she's like, "Doesn't this look pretty?" I'm like,
Oh,
"Babe, I
Oh,
gotta
she
get
should
back."
have.
it does. It looks
Yes.
fabulous. She
Yeah.
should have just come on the air and showed us her scarf. I mean,
Sure.
come on, Marie, we want to see your scarf.
No, she had to leave.
Next
But
time,
yeah.
next time.
I
All right.
gotta
Well,
look.
I guess
I have
that's all
one
the
more.
news that's
I have
fit to
one
print.
more
Oh,
comment
okay.
Oh,
from Carl
We
Tame.
love comments. We love comments.
My father hated me even when he was dying. He hated me. No trauma. It was years in the making.
that's a trauma.
Aw,
Other hated me.
that's
That's
a
a trauma.
Yeah.
That's horrible.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
thank you, Carl.
I'm sorry.
So, anyways, thank you, everybody. Thank you. I hope to keep doing this every week. Hoping to
thank
pick
you.
up some things I was doing, and Diane, appreciate it 100%. So, thank you. All right.
Thank you, Don. Thank you,
Thanks,
Kat.
Deanne.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Hearts.